Welcome back to Anime Fan Theory. The embers of war have become an unstoppable fire. The choices made in the shadows are no longer secrets. Across the world, kingdoms prepare for battle, old alliances begin to fracture, and every victory comes at a greater cost than the last. In Book 2, Ashes, Part 3, Rebellion, hope begins to rise where fear once ruled. Heroes are pushed to their limits. Enemies are forced to question everything they believe, and the future of the world hangs by a single thread. The war is no longer about who is stronger. It's about who is willing to sacrifice the most. So grab your favorite snack, sit back, and enjoy the next chapter of destiny and conflict. Let's begin. Part 3, Rebellion. Every act of mercy carries a price. Rebellion rarely begins with armies. It begins with doubt. One person questions an order. Another refuses an injustice. Someone chooses compassion where fear was expected. Small acts, quiet acts, almost invisible. Yet history has often turned upon such moments. Empires often imagine that wars are won upon battlefields. Generals measure victory through conquered cities. Kings count armies, maps, territory. But kingdoms have always overlooked one truth. People remember hope far longer than they remember fear. Across the Earth Kingdom, hope begins returning. Not all at once, not loudly, only in whispers carried from village to village. Travelers speak of supply caravans disappearing into the night. Farmers tell stories of Fire Nation forts abandoned after mysterious sabotage. Children whisper that the Avatar survived. No one knows where the stories began. No one can prove they are true. That hardly matters. Sometimes belief is enough. The Earth Kingdom refuses to disappear. Though Ba Sing Se has fallen, countless villages still resist. Small communities hide refugees inside forgotten mountain temples. Blacksmiths secretly forge weapons beneath ordinary workshops. Teachers continue passing on Earth Kingdom history, even after Fire Nation officials outlaw it. Monks shelter children orphaned by the war. Ordinary people become extraordinary simply by refusing to surrender. The Fire Nation wins battles. The Earth Kingdom refuses to lose itself. Far from the front lines, the White Lotus continues gathering. Its members never announce themselves. No banners mark their safe houses. No soldiers guard their meetings. Instead, wisdom travels quietly. A lotus tile changes hands inside a marketplace. A coded phrase passes between strangers. An old master disappears before sunrise. Across every nation, pieces slowly move into place. The game that began generations ago is nearing its end. The Avatar walks beneath open skies once more. His wounds remain. His doubts remain. Yet each passing day, he takes another step forward. Sometimes that is enough. He no longer measures victory by defeating armies. He measures it by every village that still believes tomorrow is worth fighting for. Deep inside the Fire Nation, another rebellion quietly begins. No one notices. Not yet. It raises no banners. It gathers no armies. It makes no speeches. It exists only inside a single heart. Princess Azula still wears royal armor, still commands soldiers, still kneels beside Fire Lord Ozai during councils of war. To every eye, nothing has changed. Only she knows otherwise. Because the most dangerous rebellion is not against a nation. It is against the person you spent your entire life becoming. Chapter 13, The Southern Raiders. Autumn settles across the Earth Kingdom. The endless green forests slowly surrender to shades of gold, crimson, and amber. Leaves drift gently through valleys scarred by war, covering abandoned roads where merchants once traveled freely. Cold winds sweep across empty fields waiting for harvests that will never come. The days grow shorter. The nights colder. Winter approaches. So does another year of war. Yet despite everything, resistance continues. It always does. No empire has ever conquered hope completely. Team Avatar no longer travels openly. The world believes the Avatar is dead. For now, they intend to keep it that way. Secrecy has become their greatest weapon. Their camp rarely remains in one place for longer than 3 nights. The moment smoke rises from their fire, they begin planning where to disappear next. They sleep beneath ruined watchtowers, inside forgotten caves, among ancient forests where even Fire Nation scouts hesitate to enter. Life has become movement. Movement has become survival. Each member finds a new purpose. Katara heals wounded resistance fighters as often as she trains. Entire villages begin referring to her simply as the water healer. She accepts every patient, regardless of age, regardless of nation. Sokka transforms into something few expected, not merely a warrior, a strategist. Maps cover every camp they occupy. Wooden figures mark patrol routes, supply schedules, guard rotations. Every successful mission begins with one of Sokka's plans. Toph becomes a legend almost overnight. Stories spread of a blind earthbender who appears without warning, collapses bridges beneath Fire Nation caravans, then vanishes before anyone understands what happened. The stories grow larger with every retelling. She pretends not to enjoy them. No one believes her. Aang changes as well. He still struggles with doubt, still feels the absence of the avatar state every time he meditates. Yet he has begun understanding something important. The avatar does not inspire people only by winning battles. Sometimes, hope itself becomes his greatest act of bending. Whenever frightened villagers glimpse the blue arrow upon his forehead, something changes. People stand a little straighter. Children smile again. Even exhausted soldiers find renewed strength. The Avatar's greatest power has never been the Avatar state. It has always been reminding the world that darkness is temporary. Their victories remain small, deliberately so. A supply warehouse quietly burns beneath moonlight. A railway collapses after carefully placed earthbending weakens its foundation. Food intended for Fire Nation garrisons mysteriously disappears before reaching its destination. Messenger hawks never arrive. Bridges collapse moments after military columns finish crossing. Each operation delays the Fire Nation only briefly. Days, perhaps weeks. Individually, they accomplish little. Together, they force Ozai's armies to fight an enemy they cannot predict, an enemy they cannot catch. Stories begin spreading faster than soldiers. The Avatar destroyed an entire fortress. He appeared riding the wind. I heard he commands spirits now. My cousin saw him disappear into the clouds. Every storyteller adds another impossible detail. None realize the truth is already remarkable enough. The Avatar lives. That alone changes everything. Far away, aboard the flagship Dragon's Wrath, Princess Azula studies military reports beneath the soft glow of oil lamps. Outside her cabin, waves strike the hull with steady rhythm. Inside, only silence. Scroll after scroll describes the same problems. Supply shortages, missing patrols, sabotaged railways, resistance attacks increasing across occupied territory. The reports frustrate her officers. They do not frustrate her. Instead, she notices something unexpected. The resistance no longer fights to win. It fights to endure. And somehow, that makes it far more dangerous. Near midnight, another report arrives. Routine, unremarkable, almost overlooked. A refugee convoy traveling south. 32 civilians. 7 resistance escorts. Mostly elderly. Several wounded. 4 children. Destination unknown. Estimated interception by the 34th Patrol at sunrise. Probability of capture 98%. Azula studies the report longer than necessary. She spreads a map across her desk, measures distances, calculates travel speed, reads patrol schedules, runs through every possible outcome. If captured, the refugees will almost certainly be imprisoned. Some may never reach prison at all. The military solution remains obvious. Intercept them. Capture the resistance. Secure the civilians. Move on. That is what every commander expects. That is what she herself would have ordered only months earlier. Instead, she reaches for a brush. One patrol receives new instructions. Bandit activity reported farther north. Investigate immediately. Another unit is ordered to inspect damage to a bridge supposedly weakened by flooding. A third receives instructions delaying departure until sunrise because of incorrect supply manifests. Each order appears perfectly reasonable. No officer questions them. Together, they quietly create a single opening, a narrow path through which the refugees might escape. Hours later, before dawn, the convoy slips unnoticed through a mountain pass. Parents carry sleeping children across rocky trails. Old men help wounded strangers continue walking. No one realizes death passed only a few miles away. No one knows the crown princess herself opened the road before them. The following evening, Azula receives the final report. Target convoy not located. Assumed escaped into mountain territory. Search terminated. She sets the scroll aside. Her expression never changes. Any officer entering the room would see nothing unusual. Only the princess continuing another day of military work. Yet after several moments, she notices something unexpected. She exhales, slowly, almost as though she has been holding her breath since issuing those orders. Relief settles quietly inside her. Gentle, unfamiliar, dangerous. It was only one convoy. 39 lives. Insignificant beside the millions living across the 4 nations. The war continues unchanged. Nothing important has happened. Then why? Does it feel important? She remembers the guardian beneath the ancient tree. If victory leaves only emptiness. For the first time, she wonders if perhaps the opposite is also true. Perhaps mercy leaves something behind. Something victory never could. Princess Azula says nothing. She records nothing. She tells no one. The convoy disappears into history. No songs celebrate its escape. No monuments honor the decision that saved it. The refugees will never know who spared them. They will simply remember that somehow they survived. Late that night, Azula stands alone upon the deck of her flagship. The sea stretches endlessly beneath a sky filled with stars. The wind carries the scent of salt across the dark water. She closes her eyes, not in meditation, not in exhaustion, simply to listen. For the first time and longer than she can remember, the silence inside her mind does not accuse her. It does not demand perfection. It asks only one quiet question. If one act of mercy can save 39 strangers, how many more could another save? The thought frightens her, because she already knows the answer. Compassion, once chosen, has a way of asking to be chosen again. And every act of mercy carries a price. Sooner or later, someone would notice. Chapter 14. Storm over the sea. The sea does not care about nations, or crowns, or banners, or the names kings give their wars. It remembers only the wind, the tide, the moon. Storms come for everyone equally. They do not distinguish between conqueror and defender, Fire Nation admiral or Earth Kingdom fisherman, hero or villain. When the ocean rises, every soul upon it becomes small. Autumn winds sweep across the eastern sea. Gray clouds gather low upon the horizon, though no captain gives them much thought. Storms are common this time of year. Most pass within hours. The Fire Nation fleet has weathered countless squalls before. This one appears no different. At least, at first. Hundreds of miles away, hidden within a secluded cove carved into towering cliffs, Team Avatar prepares another raid. The resistance has grown bolder. Fire Nation supply lines stretch farther every month as Ozai's armies push deeper into the Earth Kingdom. Longer routes mean greater opportunities. Sokka stands over a rough map spread across a weathered crate. Wooden markers represent ships, supply routes, guard patrols. Every movement has been carefully recorded by White Lotus scouts over the previous weeks. He taps one route with the end of his boomerang. This convoy is carrying enough food and weapons to supply 3 occupied cities. Toph whistles softly. That's a lot of food. And a lot of soldiers depending on it, Katara replies. Sokka nods. If we hit them here. He points toward a narrow channel between 2 chains of rocky islands. They'll have nowhere to maneuver. Aang studies the map. No civilians. Sokka shakes his head. Military convoy. Supply ships. Escort vessels. No transports. Aang finally nods. Then let's do it. The plan is simple. Simple plans usually work best. 3 resistance ships wait hidden among the islands. Toph will collapse portions of the narrow passage once the escort vessels enter. Katara will freeze rudders. Aang will use powerful gusts to separate the convoy. Sokka's crew boards the disabled ships. Destroy the supplies. Disappear before reinforcements arrive. Fast. Clean. Effective. Exactly the kind of operation the Resistance has become known for. Far away, Princess Azula stands upon the deck of the Fire Nation flagship. The dragon's wrath cuts steadily across calm water. Its crimson sails billow proudly beneath the afternoon sun. Nearly 30 warships follow behind in perfect formation. From the quarterdeck, Azula watches officers carry out inspections with practiced precision. She says little. She rarely needs to. A single glance from the princess often accomplishes more than shouted commands. Officially, her presence aboard the fleet is ceremonial, a reward for the officers who served during Ba Sing Se. Unofficially, Fire Lord Ozai has given different instructions. Inspect everything. Accept nothing less than perfection. The comet draws near. Every ship, every captain, every soldier. Failure will not be tolerated. As evening approaches, the sky slowly changes. Clouds darken. The wind shifts. Experienced sailors begin exchanging uncertain glances. One captain approaches Azula. Princess. The pressure is dropping. She looks toward the western horizon. An enormous wall of black clouds stretches across the sea. Too large. Too fast. Lightning flickers silently inside the darkness. Azula studies it for several seconds, then quietly says, "Signal the fleet. Reduce sail. Prepare for rough weather." The captain hesitates. "Should we change course?" She continues watching the storm. "No. It will reach us before we can outrun it." Night falls. The resistance fleet moves into position. Lanterns remain covered. Every paddle stroke is silent. The convoy appears exactly where the scouts predicted. Everything unfolds according to plan, until the wind changes. Sokka notices first. That's not good. Aang turns toward the horizon. His expression immediately hardens. The clouds are moving impossibly fast, almost unnaturally. Within minutes they swallow the stars. The moon disappears. Darkness covers the sea. Toph frowns. "I can feel the water. It doesn't feel right." Then, the first wave strikes. It rises without warning. A wall of water crashing against every ship at once. Resistance vessels nearly overturn. Fire Nation warships slam into one another. Masts splinter. Rigging snaps. The carefully planned ambush dissolves into complete chaos. The storm has arrived. Wind screams across the ocean. Rain falls sideways. Lightning tears open the sky every few seconds. Thunder follows almost instantly. The sea transforms into mountains. Ships vanish between towering waves before rising again moments later. Commands become impossible to hear. Flags disappear. Lanterns extinguish. Friend and enemy alike struggle simply to remain afloat. The ocean has declared its own war. Aang launches into the air. He bends every current he can, trying desperately to keep resistance ships together. Another violent gust slams into his glider. The fabric twists. With splinters, his staff slips sideways. He loses control. The wind flips him completely upside down. For one terrifying instant, there is only open sky beneath him. Then, nothing. He falls. The ocean rushes upward. Cold, dark, endless. Aang twists instinctively. Air cushions his descent. Not enough. The waves are too violent, too powerful. Another blast of wind tears away what little control remains. He braces for impact. It never comes. Instead, heat surrounds him. A column of blue fire erupts beneath his feet. Not attacking, supporting, redirecting his fall, just enough that he crashes on his soaked wooden planks instead of open water. He slides across the deck, catches himself against a broken railing. Looks up. Azula stands several yards away. Rain pours from her hair. Blue fire dances around her hands. She says nothing. Neither does he. Neither truly understands what just happened. Another massive wave crashes across the ship. The deck tilts violently. Sailors lose their footing. One disappears overboard. Without thinking, Aang dives after him. Air bends beneath the falling sailor, slowing his descent just long enough for Azula to snap a ribbon of fire across a nearby rope. The severed line whips downward. The sailor catches it. Several others pull him back aboard. No one has time to wonder why the Avatar and the princess just saved the same life. Another mast snaps. Another ship cries for help. The storm gives them no time to think. Hours pass. The war disappears. There is only survival. Aang bends great streams of wind, steering crippled ships away from jagged rocks. Azula uses precise jets of blue fire to ignite emergency beacons and keep soaked powder dry. Katara, having boarded another damaged vessel, races from sailor to sailor, healing wounds regardless of which uniform they wear. Even Sokka ends up helping Fire Nation sailors cut free, tangled rigging before it drags an entire ship beneath the waves. Nobody discusses it. Nobody refuses. Death has made enemies irrelevant. Near midnight, lightning strikes the flagship itself. The main mast explodes. Burning timber rains across the deck. Azula pushes several sailors clear with a blast of fire. A falling beam hurtles toward her. A sudden gust catches it. Aang redirects the burning wood harmlessly into the sea. Their eyes meet. No words. None are needed. Each already knows the other would have done the same. Toward dawn, the storm finally weakens. The waves settle. Clouds begin breaking apart. The first rays of sunlight spread across an ocean littered with wreckage. Ships drift in every direction, some barely afloat, others already sinking beneath calm water. Survivors cling to broken masts. Floating debris. Anything that keeps them alive. The cost of the night becomes painfully clear. Aboard the shattered flagship, silence settles over everyone. The battle never happened. Neither side accomplished its mission. The storm decided the outcome. Aang and Azula stand near opposite rails, watching sunlight shimmer across the recovering sea. For several minutes, neither speaks. Finally, Aang breaks the silence. "We make a good team." The words escape before he can stop them. Azula looks toward the horizon. "That," she says quietly, "would be unfortunate." Yet despite herself, the smallest smile touches the corner of her mouth. Gone almost immediately, but real. The distant sound of horns echoes across the water. Rescue ships. Fire Nation reinforcements. Reality returns. Sailors begin shouting. Officers resume giving orders. The masts return with astonishing speed. Azula straightens. Princess once again. Aang grips his staff. Avatar once more. Neither acknowledges what happened. Neither can. The world would never understand. As Appa disappears into the morning sky, Azula watches until the flying bison becomes only a distant silhouette. One of her officers approaches. "Your Highness, should we pursue?" She remains silent for several moments, then shakes her head. "Our priority is the survivors." The officer salutes, never realizing he has just witnessed another quiet act of mercy. Far above, Aang looks back only once. The flagship grows smaller beneath clouds. He cannot explain why, but for the first time, he no longer believes Azula is beyond saving. Chapter 15, Blood and Honor. Honor. The word has followed Prince Zuko for as long as he can remember. It shaped every lesson, every punishment, every scar. As a child, he believed honor was something his father could give him. As an exile, he believed it was something he had to earn. When he returned home, after Ba Sing's say, he believed he had finally found it. Now, the word itself has begun losing meaning. Life inside the palace resumes, as though nothing has changed. Generals celebrate victories. Ministers praise expansion. Courtiers speak excitedly about Sozin's comet. Every corridor echoes with confidence. Every conversation assumes the Fire Nation has already won. Only Zuko seems unable to celebrate. Each morning begins with military briefings. Huge maps cover the war chamber walls. Colored markers spread steadily across the Earth Kingdom. More occupied territory. More conquered cities. More victories. Yet every meeting grows darker. Supply shortages no longer concern the generals. Resistance no longer frustrates them. Instead, they speak openly about extermination. Burn the forests. Salt the fields. Relocate entire populations. Erase every sanctuary that shelters rebels. The words come so casually, as though discussing weather, not lives. Zuko listens in silence. His fingers slowly tighten beneath the table. He remembers another meal, another conversation. Simple, warm. A poor Earth Kingdom family sharing everything they had with strangers. Their little boy proudly showing him homemade toys. Their grandmother insisting he take an extra bowl of soup. Those people live somewhere upon these maps. Would they become another marked province? Another acceptable sacrifice? Ozai notices nothing. Or perhaps, he notices everything. His plans continue growing. Entire regions become little more than strategic calculations. The Earth Kingdom no longer appears to him as a nation. Only an obstacle. One final problem waiting to be solved. After every meeting, Zuko walks the palace grounds alone. The gardens no longer bring peace. The koi ponds no longer calm his thoughts. Every path eventually leads him back to the same question. What would Uncle say? The answer always comes immediately. He would tell Zuko that strength without compassion destroys itself. He would ask whether victory bought through cruelty deserves to be called victory at all. Azula notices. Of course she does. No one has spent more time studying Zuko than Azula. She recognizes every habit, every silence, every hesitation. She notices him reading reports twice instead of once, questioning casualty numbers, watching the generals rather than their maps, listening more than speaking. Months ago she would have mocked him. Now, she simply wonders why his questions sound so familiar. One evening, they find themselves standing upon the western balcony overlooking the sea. The sun slowly sinks beneath the horizon. The sky burns orange and crimson. Neither plan the meeting. Neither leaves. For a long time, they simply watch the waves. Finally, Zuko speaks. Do you ever think about Mother? Azula blinks. The question catches her completely off guard. Sometimes. He nods. I've been wondering. He struggles to finish. What'd she think of all this? Azula doesn't answer. Instead, she keeps watching the ocean, because for the first time, she has wondered the same thing. Several more minutes pass. The silence feels strangely gentle. Not hostile. Not competitive. Simply tired. Then Zuko quietly asks the question that has haunted him for weeks. Do you ever wonder if we're wrong? Azula freezes. The words strike deeper than any accusation. Months ago, she would have answered immediately. No. Without hesitation. Without thought. Now, the certainty refuses to come. What brought this on? Her voice is quieter than she intended. Zuko lets out a slow breath. I don't know. The answer is true. And incomplete. He knows exactly what brought it on. His uncle. The Earth Kingdom family. The war meetings. The screams he still hears at night. But he cannot fit years of doubt into a single sentence. So he settles for honesty instead. He stares toward the sea. Don't recognize us anymore. Azula follows his gaze. Far below, waves crash endlessly against black volcanic cliffs. Patient, unchanging. She thinks of the refugees she secretly spared. The questions asked by the Guardian. The lies she's begun telling. She understands his words better than she wishes. Yet saying so aloud would change everything. Neither of them is ready. For the first time since childhood, Azula does not see her brother as weak. She sees someone carrying the same invisible burden she carries. Someone trying desperately to reconcile duty with conscience. Someone caught between loyalty and truth. In another life, perhaps they could have spoken honestly. Perhaps they could have helped one another. Years of rivalry, competition, pain, and their father's expectations stand between them instead. The moment slips away, like water through open fingers. A servant appears in the doorway. The Fire Lord requests your presence. The spell breaks instantly. Masks return. Prince, princess, heir, general, enemies to everyone except each other. As they walk back toward the palace, neither speaks again. But something fundamental has changed. For the first time in their lives, brother and sister have asked the same question. Neither has answered it. Yet both know they will have to. Soon. Chapter 16. The Lost Temple. There are places in the world that war cannot reach. Not because armies never found them. Because time itself refuses to surrender them. High above the Earth Kingdom, where jagged mountains disappear into seas of drifting cloud, an ancient sanctuary waits in silence. No roads lead toward it. No banners mark its existence. Even maps disagree on where it stands. Travelers speak of it only in whispers. Some claim it vanished centuries ago. Others insist it appears only to those who have forgotten what they were searching for. The White Lotus simply calls it the Lost Temple. The temple predates the four nations. Long before kingdoms drew borders. Before palaces rose. Before armies marched beneath royal banners. Ere nomad monks climbed these mountains seeking a different kind of victory. Not over enemies. Over themselves. Legend claims that Avatar Yanshin herself once meditated beneath its highest chamber, not to gain power, but to remember why power existed at all. Over the centuries, avalanches buried the roads leading upward. Forests reclaimed forgotten stairways. Clouds swallowed the peaks. History slowly allowed the temple to disappear. Perhaps that had always been its purpose. The White Lotus discovers only fragments. A faded journal preserved beneath Omashu. An incomplete fire sage map recovered from abandoned archives. An old monk's final writings hidden inside the Northern Air Temple. Individually, they reveal almost nothing. Together, they point toward one impossible place. A sanctuary untouched by the 100-Year War. A place where knowledge older than nations still survives. When Aang reads the final page, his hands tremble slightly. If this place still exists, he whispers, there may be things even Monk Gyatso never had the chance to teach me. Far away, Fire Nation scholars reach the same conclusion. The royal archives contain their own scattered references. Ancient records confiscated from conquered monasteries. Forgotten Fire Sage manuscripts. Prophecies written before Sozin's reign. Most dismiss them as mythology. One scholar does not. His report eventually reaches Princess Azula. Officially, the temple may contain historical artifacts valuable to the Fire Nation. Unofficially, Azula hopes for something else. Answers. Perhaps the same answers she has been seeking since Black Pine Valley. She tells no one. Neither knows the other has begun the journey. The climb into the mountains is unforgiving. Narrow paths twist along cliffs that vanish into clouds. Cold winds howl through ancient pines. Snow begins appearing beneath shaded rocks. Days pass without another living soul. The world below slowly disappears beneath endless white mist. At times, the mountain itself seems alive, watching, judging, deciding who deserves to continue. On the fourth morning, Aang reaches the summit. He stops walking, not because he is tired, because words fail him. The temple rises directly from the mountain itself. White stone, weathered smooth by centuries of wind. Massive circular towers connected by suspended bridges. Prayer flags, faded almost colorless, still flutter, gently despite their impossible age. No smoke, no voices, no signs of life, only silence. Beautiful, sacred, waiting. Several minutes later, another traveler arrives from the opposite trail. Azula. She freezes. He does the same. For several long moments, they simply stare. Neither had imagined finding the other here. Neither reaches for a weapon. The place itself seems to make violence feel wrong, almost disrespectful. Finally, Aang smiles faintly. I should have guessed. Azula folds her arms. So should I. Neither asks the obvious question. Why are you here? Somehow, they already know. The answer is the same. Together, they climb the final staircase. No agreement is spoken aloud. No alliance is declared. Yet neither objects when the other follows. The temple accepts them both. Crossing the threshold feels strangely familiar. Not like entering a building, like stepping into memory. Dust hangs motionless within shafts of sunlight pouring through broken ceilings. Ancient prayer wheels line the corridors, though untouched for centuries. They begin turning slowly as the two walk past. Not from wind. Something else. Something older. The halls remain perfectly preserved. Murals stretch across curved walls. Air nomads laughing beneath open skies. Children learning to glide. Avatars from forgotten ages standing beside spirits rather than armies. There are no scenes of conquest. No victorious battles. Only harmony. Only life. Azula notices something immediately. There aren't any weapons. Aang smiles. There never were. She studies the empty halls. So they built temples. Without preparing to defend them, they believed peace was stronger than walls. Azula considers the idea. She cannot decide whether it sounds wise or impossibly naive. They continue deeper. Every chamber feels different. One echoes with distant chanting despite standing empty. Another contains a pool so still it perfectly reflects the ceiling. In another, thousands of tiny bells hang from invisible threads. None move until Aang walks beneath them. Then, they ring together, softly, as though greeting an old friend. At the temple's heart lies a circular sanctuary open to the sky. Massive stone tablets surround the chamber, each covered with inscriptions worn by time. At the center grows an enormous tree whose roots have slowly embraced the temple itself. Life-preserving memory, not consuming it. Aang kneels before the first tablet. His fingers gently brush ancient carvings. The symbols are old, far older than modern air, nomad writing. Yet somehow, he understands them, not with his eyes, with something deeper. The words seem to awaken inside him. The first inscription reads, "Balance is not achieved when one side defeats another. Balance endures when opposites learn to exist together." Aang reads the passage twice. Then a third time. His thoughts drift immediately toward the war. Toward Ozai. Toward Azula. Could balance truly exist without victory? The idea feels almost impossible. Yet, so had forgiving enemies. Until he met her. Across the chamber, Azula studies another stone. Its surface bears the image of two hands. One surrounded by flame, the other by growing flowers. Beneath them, another message. Power without compassion becomes destruction. Compassion without strength becomes helplessness. Wisdom lives between them. She reads it silently. Again, again, again. Her father's lessons echo through memory. Strength above all. Mercy is weakness. Compassion is failure. The stone says the opposite. Not completely. Only that strength alone is incomplete. For the first time, she wonders whether wisdom has always required both. The temple reveals more than words. As sunlight shifts across the sanctuary, hidden carvings begin appearing upon the walls. Entire stories unfold, not through magic, through light. Ancient avatars walking beside kings, settling disputes, healing nations, listening, always listening before acting, never ruling, never conquering, serving. Aang watches in awe. I always thought being the avatar meant saving people. He looks around the chamber. Maybe it means understanding them first. Azula says nothing, yet his words linger. Hours pass unnoticed. Neither realizes how much time has gone by. The mountain outside grows quieter. Snow begins falling beyond the sanctuary. Inside, conversation comes more easily than either expected. They speak of childhood, not politics, not war. Simple things. Favorite places. The smell of spring. Flying. Swimming. Tea. Silences no longer feel uncomfortable. At one point, Azula stops before a faded mural showing children from every nation playing together. No one looked at each other like enemies. They hadn't learned to yet. Aang replies. She studies the painting. I don't remember ever seeing the world like that. He looks at her. I'm sorry. The words are quiet. Honest. She doesn't answer. Because she doesn't know how. As evening approaches, they climb to the temple's highest terrace. Clouds stretch endlessly beneath them. The world disappears below a sea of white. Only the mountain peaks remain visible. The setting sun paints everything gold. For several minutes, neither speaks. Finally, Aang says, "Do you ever wish things had been different?" Azula doesn't ask what he means. She already knows. Every day. It is the most vulnerable answer she has ever given him. Then, the wind begins moving. Not naturally. The prayer flags rise. The bells ring together. The great tree below sways despite the still air. Neither feels threatened. Only watched. The temple has shown them what they needed to see. Not answers. Possibilities. As they descend the mountain, the following morning, they part without promises. Without plans. Only understanding. Neither notices the oldest inscription carved above the temple gate. Centuries of snow had hidden it until dawn. The greatest victory is not over another. It is over the hatred within yourself. Chapter 17, Hearts Divided. Winter comes quietly. The first snow falls across the northern mountains. Frost settles upon fields left empty by war. The days grow shorter. The nights stretch longer. Cold enters every corner of the world. Yet something else begins growing. Slowly. Silently. Like embers hidden beneath fresh snow. Neither Aang nor Azula speaks of the lost temple. Not to anyone. Some memories feel too fragile to share. As though saying them aloud might somehow break them. Yet neither can forget. Aang notices it first. Not during battles. Not while meditating. In ordinary moments. The quiet ones. Katara asks him a question. He almost answers with something Azula once said. Toph complains about palace architecture. He remembers Azula criticizing the exact same thing. Sokka jokes that every Fire Nation noble probably sleeps in polished armor. Aang almost laughs, because he suddenly imagines Azula rolling her eyes. The thought startles him. He begins catching himself smiling for no reason, then realizing why, then immediately trying not to, which somehow makes it worse. Meditation becomes increasingly difficult. Whenever he closes his eyes, he intends to focus on breathing. Instead, He remembers conversations, her laugh during the storm, the way sunlight caught her hair atop the lost temple, the uncertainty hidden beneath her confidence, her quiet admission. Every day, he opens his eyes, frustrated. Monk Gyatso once taught him that attachment could cloud judgment. What happens when the person occupying your thoughts is supposed to be your enemy? Katara notices. She doesn't know why Aang seems distracted, only that he does. He laughs a little less, stares into campfires a little longer, sometimes catches himself looking east toward the Fire Nation without realizing it. She worries, but says nothing. Everyone carries invisible burdens now. Far away, Azula experiences something remarkably similar, only she refuses to admit it. At first, she buries herself in work, military reports, council meetings, training, royal ceremonies, anything requiring complete concentration. Yet memories continue finding her. Unexpectedly, a servant brings jasmine tea. She remembers Aang telling her tea tasted better outdoors. Rain begins falling. She remembers standing beside him during the storm at sea. She walks past the royal archives. She remembers reading ancient teachings together beneath the mountain temple. The memories arrive without permission. They refuse to leave. One evening, Mai notices. You've been smiling. Azula looks genuinely confused. I have not. Mai shrugs. Not much, but enough. Azula says nothing, because the possibility terrifies her. The realization comes gradually, not all at once. She no longer thinks of Aang as the Avatar. She thinks of him as Aang. The distinction changes everything. Late one night, she walks on her balcony. Snow has begun falling even upon the Fire Nation capital. Tiny white flakes melt against warm stone. The city sleeps beneath countless lanterns. She looks toward the eastern sea, toward lands hidden beyond darkness. Without intending to, she wonders where he is, whether he's warm, whether he's safe, whether he ever thinks about her too. The thought should horrify her. Instead, it simply feels honest. Hundreds of miles away, Aang stands outside a small resistance camp. The same stars stretch overhead, the same winter sky. He looks toward the west, toward a nation he has spent his entire life fighting. Somewhere beyond that horizon, she is looking at the same stars. He knows how impossible that thought is. He cannot stop thinking it anyway. That night, both of them finally admit something. Not aloud, never aloud, only to themselves. Aang no longer sees Azula as someone he hopes to defeat. He hopes to save her. Azula no longer sees Aang as the enemy she was raised to destroy. She has begun hoping, against every lesson she has ever been taught, that he survives this war. Neither sleeps well, because both understand the truth now. Love does not ask whether the time is convenient. It does not care about nations, or crowns, or destinies written by other people. It simply arrives, quietly, patiently, until denying it becomes impossible. And with that realization, the war between their hearts becomes even more dangerous than the one consuming the world. Chapter 18, The Cost of Mercy. Mercy always demands payment. The price is rarely paid immediately. Sometimes, it waits patiently, growing heavier with every choice, every lie, every life spared. Sooner or later, someone always comes to collect. Autumn settles across the western provinces of the Earth Kingdom. The forests have begun turning gold beneath cool mountain winds. Villages prepare for winter, while Fire Nation patrols tighten their control over the surrounding countryside. Despite months of occupation, resistance refuses to disappear. Supply caravans continue vanishing. Bridges collapse overnight. Military outposts report missing weapons and stolen food. The rebellion survives not because it is stronger than the Fire Nation, but because ordinary people continue refusing to surrender. Every farmer willing to hide a messenger. Every merchant willing to carry secret letters. Every family willing to risk everything for strangers. The Empire controls the roads. It has never controlled hope. Just before sunset, a messenger arrives at Azula's headquarters. His armor is stained with dust from days of hard riding. He kneels immediately. Your Highness, our Western Patrol has captured a resistance cell near the Keda Pass. Azula accepts the sealed report. The wax bears the commander's insignia. She breaks it carefully. Inside, the recommendation is exactly what she expected. 23 prisoners captured. 3 Fire Nation soldiers wounded. Recommend immediate execution to discourage further resistance. Beneath the recommendation appears a final sentence. Awaiting your highness's approval. She folds the paper slowly. Prepare my horse. The journey to Kata Pass lasts several hours. Cold evening air fills the narrow mountain roads. The farther west she travels, the quieter the land becomes. Entire villages appear abandoned. Fields lie empty after the autumn harvest. Smoke rises from only a handful of chimneys. War has drained the countryside of nearly everything except silence. The temporary prison camp occupies an abandoned farming village. Wooden fences surround several crude holding pens. Fire Nation banners snap sharply in the evening wind. The local commander greets her immediately. He bows deeply. Your Highness, the prisoners await your judgment. His confidence suggests he already knows the outcome. Every commander does. Princess Azula has built her reputation upon swift justice. No hesitation. No mercy. No mistakes. She follows him through the camp. The smell of smoke and damp earth fills the air. Prisoners kneel behind wooden barriers, their hands bound with thick rope. Azula studies them quietly, not as enemies, as people. An elderly man whose weathered hands still bear dirt beneath the fingernails. A woman holding a frightened little girl close against her shoulder. A teenage boy no older than 14, trying desperately to appear brave despite the fear in his eyes. Two sisters whisper softly to comfort one another. Several wounded resistance fighters sit together, sharing what little water remains. None look like the monsters described in military reports. They look exhausted, hungry, terrified. The commander notices her silence. They refuse to reveal the location of the larger resistance camp. His voice remains cold. They understand the consequences. Azula continues walking. One prisoner slowly lifts his head. He cannot be much older than Zuko, perhaps 17. Bruises cover one side of his face. Yet his expression remains strangely calm. Our families had nothing to do with this. His voice barely rises above a whisper. If you're going to punish someone, punish us. The commander strikes him across the face before he can continue. Silence. The young man falls heavily against the ground. No one moves. No one dares. Azula stares at him. For a brief instant, the bruised face changes. She remembers another young man kneeling before Fire Lord Ozai. Zuko. His face burned. His pride shattered. She remembers another boy, 12 years old, standing before her in the crystal catacombs, offering peace instead of hatred. Then another memory. The guardian spirit beneath the great tree. If victory leaves only emptiness, what have you truly won? The words return with startling clarity. The commander steps forward. Shall I prepare the executions? Silence follows. Every soldier waits. Every prisoner lowers their head. The decision seems already made. Azula inhales slowly. Then, no. The commander blinks. My princess. She turns toward him. These people are not soldiers. They're civilians who chose the wrong side. They still broke imperial law. They will answer for it. Her voice remains calm, measured, confident, exactly as expected. They will be relocated to labor settlements. They'll help rebuild roads and farms damaged during the war. They'll contribute to the empire. The commander hesitates. But your highness, wouldn't execution discourage further resistance? Azula meets his eyes. No. Martyrs inspire rebellion. Workers feed empires. The explanation is practical, strategic, entirely believable. Several officers nod in agreement. The logic makes sense. Only Azula knows the real reason. Relief spreads silently through the prisoners. No cheers. No celebration. Only quiet tears. An elderly woman closes her eyes in gratitude. The young boy who had been struck struggles to his feet once more. Their eyes meet. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. For the first time in years. Someone looks at Princess Azula not with fear, but with hope. She almost looks away. The convoy departs the following morning. Official records state that the prisoners are being transported to a secure labor colony farther east. That convoy never arrives. Several hours into the journey, the escort discovers that a bridge has collapsed ahead. The officer in charge orders camp to be established nearby, while engineers assess another route. During the night, a section of the outer fence mysteriously gives way. Several guards later report hearing strange noises within the forest. By dawn, every prisoner has disappeared. The official investigation blames resistance fighters. Bandits. Poor construction. No one considers the possibility that someone had quietly ordered fewer guards than necessary, or that a map of nearby mountain trails had somehow been left where prisoners could find it. Azula signs the investigation without comment. Weeks pass. The incident becomes only one report among hundreds. Then another convoy goes missing. A village somehow evacuates before soldiers arrive. A shipment of grain intended for Fire Nation garrisons mysteriously reaches, starving refugees instead. No single event seems unusual. Together, they form a pattern, one that thoughtful commanders begin noticing. Someone inside the Fire Nation has begun choosing mercy over fear. Someone powerful, someone protected, someone dangerous. Whispers spread through military headquarters. Not loudly, quietly. The most dangerous kind. Far away. Within the royal palace, Fire Lord Ozai studies reports beneath the flickering glow of a single brazier. Stacks of parchment cover his desk. Supply shortages. Delayed executions. Unexpected escapes. Failed searches. Individually, each report appears insignificant. Together, they disturb him. Ozai reads them once. Then again. Finally, he places one finger upon the map spread before him. His expression never changes. Yet something colder settles behind his eyes. There is weakness. He murmurs. Within my empire. No one answers. The chamber is empty. Still, the words linger. Weakness. Mercy. Compassion. To Ozai, they are all the same thing. Whoever is responsible has not merely disobeyed orders. They have challenged the foundation upon which his empire stands. He intends to find them. That night, Princess Azula stands alone upon the highest balcony of the royal palace. The sea stretches endlessly toward the eastern horizon. Moonlight dances across gentle waves. Far below, the capital sleeps. The sounds of laughter and music have long since faded. Only the wind remains. She closes her eyes. The faces return. The frightened child clutching her mother's hand. The elderly farmer. The young resistance fighter who chose silence rather than betray innocent people. They are alive. Because of her. The realization should frighten her. Instead, it brings a strange sense of peace. Small. Fragile. Real. She finally understands something Aang tried to tell her months ago beneath drifting lanterns. Strength is not measured by the lives you can take. Sometimes, it is measured by the lives you choose to spare. A faint smile touches her face before disappearing into the night. She knows this path grows more dangerous with every step. Every act of mercy leaves another trail. Every lie pulls her farther from the daughter Ozai raised. Soon, someone will notice. Soon, she will be forced to choose between the empire she inherited and the person she is becoming. Thousands of miles away, beneath the same blanket of stars, Aang sits quietly outside a hidden white lotus sanctuary. The camp has fallen asleep. Only the crackle of a small fire breaks the silence. He looks upward. The same constellations shine over the Earth Kingdom, over the Fire Nation, over Black Pine Valley. He thinks about the princess he cannot stop remembering. He wonders whether she ever looks at the same sky. Far across the sea, she does. Neither knows it. Neither can. Yet the distance between them has grown smaller than either would have believed possible. The rebellion has already begun. Not with armies. Not with battles. Not with victories. It began the moment one frightened princess chose mercy over fear. And history would never be the same again. And that's the end of Book 2, Ashes, Part 3, Rebellion. The flames of war continue to spread, but so does the courage to stand against them. Every decision made in this chapter has brought our characters one step closer to a future that none of them can predict. The rebellion has begun, but the greatest battles are still ahead. If you enjoyed today's chapter, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Anime Fan Theory, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next part of this journey. I'd also love to hear your thoughts. Which moment was your favorite? Which character do you think has changed the most? And what do you think will happen in Part 4? Leave your theories in the comments below. I read them all, and many inspire future stories and videos. Thank you for watching and supporting the channel. Until next time, sometimes the smallest spark is all it takes to start a rebellion.